You know, I think this obsession with optimizing our lives with morning routines, meditation, ice bath plunges, gratitude journaling, and mindfulness, I think it's just procrastination. Because most of us are probably a bit insecure and spend a little bit too much time alone having conversations in our heads, trying to perfect life instead of outside of our heads, living our lives. More specifically, I don't think enough of us have friends or lovers or healthy, non-political, core social groups of friends to spend some time with. And not any kind of agenda, just time with good people having fun. When you read a lot of these self-help books or watch the content online, it's interesting on the surface. But all this content about health and routines, it sounds like you're finally gaining more control and being productive in your life. I get it. But you know the truth, the more I tried and failed at these revelatory 3-step programs, it just seemed like a release valve for the herd of cats in my head. And I end up where I was before I read that damn book or watched that inspiring video. We don't need this much optimization when we're alone in our heads. We need to relax and share our inner worlds with people we trust, face to face, hopefully, and do it on a more regular basis if we can. Yeah, I know, pretty rich coming from a guy talking to himself on a camera. I'm sure you've heard of Chris Williamson. He's a successful YouTube/podcast interviewer. And he was recently talking about the benefits of doing regular weekly therapy himself as a healthy routine. But while it's all well-meaning, and as I said, I love this type of practical/stoic content myself, I also look at the intellectual podcast lifestyle that Chris has made for himself on this very successful full-time channel of his. Yeah, I'm jealous where he's flying all over the world, having continual 3-hour, intense, and deep personal discussions with interesting, world-leading people in their field, celebrities in their field, if you will. And then the next day, he again has a 3-hour intense therapy session with another intellectual giant, a cerebral marathon, daily, weekly, with a stranger spilling out everything personally, meaningfully, finally getting deep with a person who can understand us, unlike our friends and family. Heck, it's the reason I started my YouTube channel. I had no one to talk to about relationships and a philosophical way through all of this mess. And Chris does this to a very high level, all in beautiful, impeccable production value. On a 3-shot camera setup, anamorphic lens flare, bicolor camera grading at 48 Hertz, 712-bit audio float recording, blah, blah, blah. And then it's over. Life is boring compared to this type of Avatar movie styled experience. So what do? You organize the next online discussion and you get your virtual reality fix in another podcast. To the point, on a recent interview, Chris Williamson with Alex Hormozi, well worth a listen, I recommend it, they start by saying how good it was to catch up with each other after all of this time gone by in absence. And they made an analogy that it feels like their chats resemble a 3-hour conversational booty call until they see each other next year for the next conversational hookup. Think about that for a moment. You have an intense experience with someone, connecting profoundly with them, and then it's over. You abandon each other. You walk away. So I can imagine with Chris after the interview, it's cut, that's a wrap, it's over, and then he's alone again in an ordinary world until the next online conversation high that he has. All the self-help, overly spiritual mindfulness podcasts out there are entertaining and informative, and they stop us and make us think a little bit. But I think most of us use it as procrastination while avoiding taking some sort of action. We're always just about to jump out of the plane with our parachute, but never quite. Talking about relationships, but never trying them. Talking about money, but never making it. Perfecting the bucket list, but never doing it. Whenever I listen to a podcast or even create this type of content, to camera, presenting and thinking and talking about what is right and what is wrong in life, that is, having moral and ethical discussions like this. And while it's inspiring, you do feel really mentally alive. Afterwards, however, I sometimes feel like we keep perfecting and planning what we should be doing, While never quite doing it, never quite trying it, it's all about discussing the menu and never eating anything. I think that therapy in real life can do the same thing for people in similar comforting ways. We talk things to death, but we never choose any of the choices. So we never feel like we've lived or failed. Finally, I'll leave you with this. We seem to be exhilarated by these important conversations about life and love, while never living and loving. For most of us, we don't need podcasts or therapy and more thinking and talking on our own. We need to choose something to get something that feels like an actual life.